The King's Gambit, the true story of the 1922 coup in Cairo. Prologue, the crossroads of an empire. The year is 1922. The Great War has been over for 4 years, but the world is still rearranging itself. The once mighty Ottoman Empire lies shattered, its vast territories carved up by the victorious European powers. In Egypt, a land officially part of that defunct empire but under British military occupation since 1882, a moment of profound change is brewing. For 4 decades, the British have ruled Egypt in all but name, controlling its finances, its foreign policy, and its security, all while a figurehead, the Khedive, sat on the throne in Cairo's Abdeen Palace. The war intensified this control, turning Egypt into a massive British garrison. But the fire of Egyptian nationalism, fanned by the repressive wartime measures, could not be extinguished. In 1919, a nationwide revolution erupted, led by the charismatic lawyer Saad Zaghloul and his Waft delegation party. Egyptians from all walks of life, students, farmers, lawyers, women, demanded independence. The British, exhausted from the war and facing intense pressure at home, knew the status quo was untenable. They were prepared to offer a form of independence, but on their own terms. The question was, who would they hand it to? The cast of characters: Sultan Fuad I, a shrewd, ambitious, and often paranoid man of 53. Born in Cairo, he spent much of his youth in exile in Italy, living more as a European aristocrat than an Egyptian prince. He ascended the throne in 1917 after his brother's death, inheriting the title of Sultan under British oversight. He spoke Arabic with an Italian accent, but possessed a fierce determination to secure his dynasty's power and elevate Egypt to a true kingdom, with himself as its absolute monarch. The British High Commission, represented by Lord Allenby, the bull of the empire. A military man of immense stature and reputation, he was pragmatic. His primary goal was to protect British interests, maintaining control of the Suez Canal, ensuring Egypt did not fall into a chaos that could threaten the empire, and preventing the fiercely anti-British Waft Party from taking full power. The Waft Party, led by Saad Zaghloul, they were the undeniable voice of the Egyptian people. Having led the 1919 revolution, they demanded a constitutional monarchy with a powerful elected parliament that would truly rule the country. They were Fuad's greatest political threat. Adli Yakin Pasha, a moderate aristocrat and former prime minister. He was caught between the popular Waft and the powerful king, trying to negotiate a workable compromise with the British. The coup of title and power. The British decision to unilaterally declare Egypt's independence in February 1922 was not an act of pure benevolence. It was a strategic move to retain influence by shaping the new state before the Waft could seize the initiative. The key instrument of this strategy was Sultan Fuad himself. Allenby and the British government saw in Fuad a pliable ally. He was a known quantity, distrustful of the popular Waft, and his personal ambitions aligned perfectly with British desires for a stable, controllable Egypt. The process was not a bloody military coup, but a brilliant political and diplomatic one. On February 28, 1922, the British government issued a declaration that ended the protectorate and recognized Egypt as an independent, sovereign state. But buried in the fine print were 4 reserved points that Britain would still control: the security of imperial communications, the Suez Canal, the defense of Egypt, the protection of foreign interests and minorities, and Sudan. The very first article of this declaration, however, was the masterstroke. The title of Sultan of Egypt is abolished. The title to be assumed by the ruler of Egypt is henceforth to be that of King of Egypt. This was Fuad I, as you've titled it. This was the coup. By elevating Fuad from Sultan to King, the British performed a masterful act of political theater. The title Sultan was a relic of Ottoman subordination. King, a Malik, implied a sovereign ruler of a wholly independent nation. It was a title that resonated with power, tradition, and legitimacy. This gift made Fuad utterly dependent on British power for his new status. In one move, Britain had 1. Created a rival power center. They gave Fuad the tools and title to challenge the Waft's popularity with the grandeur of the monarchy. Bypassed the popular will. They granted independence not to the elected representatives of the people, the Waft, but to a monarch who owed his new crown to them. 3. Sowed enduring discord. They ensured that the future of Egyptian politics would be a bitter three-way struggle between the king, the Wafd, and the British embassy, preventing a unified front against British influence. The aftermath, a precarious throne King Fuad I did not remain a simple British puppet. He used his new title to its fullest extent.
He immediately moved to draft a constitution.
However, fearing the Wafd's power, he ensured the 1923 Constitution granted the king vast executive powers, the right to appoint and dismiss governments, dissolve parliament, and legislate by decree when parliament was not in session. The following years proved the British strategy both a success and a failure. The Wafd, as expected, won every free election in a landslide. Fuad would then use his royal powers to dismiss the Wafdist government, appoint a pliable prime minister, and suspend the constitution, a cycle that plunged Egyptian politics into perpetual instability. Fuad I, the king created by a British decree, spent his entire reign, 1922-1936, wrestling with the very forces that Coup of title was meant to contain. He never held the absolute power he craved, trapped between the immense popularity of the Wafd and the unyielding presence of the British. Conclusion. The true story of the 1922 coup is not one of tanks in the streets, but of a title change in a diplomatic communique. It was a calculated gambit by the British Empire to retain control by creating a king. For Fuad, it was the culmination of his ambition. The moment he transformed from an Ottoman satellite into the monarch of a nominally independent nation. For the Egyptian people, it was a deeply flawed independence, a poisoned chalice that exchanged overt occupation for a covert one, setting the stage for decades of political strife and revolution yet to come. The story of King Fuad I is the story of how a crown can be both a symbol of sovereignty and the ultimate instrument of control.